This is the Last of Us podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1.
We've gotten pretty good. Thanks. All those lessons from Joel. He taught you well. He did.
Welcome back, fellow survivors, to TV Podcast Industries, where we are covering The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1. I'm one of your hosts, John.
I am your other host, Derek. Welcome back to the fourth episode of Season 2 of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
We're at the halfway point now, because there's only 7 this
Pretty
season.
much so, yeah.
We've only got 3 after this to go, and 3 before, and this is the middle one. So,
excellent.
Yeah. What an interesting way to start. So Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1. So Day 1 is, what's that, 12 episodes into the season?
Yeah.
Because in the game, it'd be Seattle Day 1 would be the name of this time period, because they've reached Seattle, but because they mentioned Seattle loads beforehand, they just put it up as Day 1 as the name. So next week's episode is probably just Day 2.
Yeah, and then one after that is Day 3. Yeah. Then it's Day 4.
Then Day 296 is the time jump.
They've decided to dispense with episode titles now.
Yeah, like I think all the rest of the episode titles were song titles or connected to songs. So this one should have been called "Take on Me," shouldn't it?
I guess so.
Or "Take Me On," or "I'll Be." No, I won't sing the rest of the lyrics.
No, don't. Because I was sort of singing along to it as well, and getting really high as well on the.
Of course.
In the "Take Me On," as all the glasses shattered.
Yes, yeah. So we do come from the times when we didn't have the unplugged version that AHA did in their second time. We only remember the original one where you couldn't even make out the lyrics he was singing so high.
Or the auto-tune function as well.
Or the auto-tune function, yes, yes.
And I'm still, jury's still out for me on the acoustic version in inverted commas. Now, in terms of in the show, great.
Fabulous.
But I can just imagine now it's going to spawn a ton of pretentious acoustic versions.
Well, the game did.
No.
The game did. You could play the song guitar in the game because you had to play the chords to play along with it. You remember that, John? So
I do.
So lots and lots of people took to making videos for YouTube of playing the songs on the guitar in the game. So. Oh
no, yeah, okay, that's fine. No, I mean actual.
Actually released ones.
Yeah, released acoustic versions of this song.
Hopefully, AHA will re-release their version of it and make some money out of it. Like
exactly.
Yeah, like Depeche Mode made loads of money out of their song from last season. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like Kate Bush as well from Stranger Things. I think it'd be really good, to be honest. So, come on, AHA. Take on this project.
Absolutely. Everything 80s is soundtrackable again.
It certainly is. It was great decade. But before we get into our spoiler-filled discussion, please remember, fellow survivors, fellow fun guys, to pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast on any immune or infected podcast player of your choice. Indeed, please share the podcast as well, because sharing the podcast is, of course,
sharing the
spores.
Oh, sharing the spores, yes.
Indeed.
Thank you, John. Didn't prepare me for that one.
And of course, a quick public service announcement that you can send in your thoughts, observations on all things to do with The Last of Us Season 2 and every episode to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or over on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where we put up a spoiler post for each episode of The Last of Us.
Absolutely, and every other show that we're covering and every movie that we're covering as well. We just finished doing our podcast on Thunderbolts *.
Indeed.
Yes, which is just been released, and then they changed the name. But we're not going to talk about that here. We talked about all of it on the podcast. Go listen to that over at tvpodcastindustries.com. And one final reminder before we get into the episode itself, we are still continuing our World's End pub quiz for season 2 of The Last of Us as well. The next question, the 4th question of 7, will be available later on in the podcast. And we need you to send in your correct answers at the end of the season 2 feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com. You could be in with a chance of getting your hands on The Last of Us Part 2 for PC or PlayStation.
Yes, you can. And if you're not a gamer, you can avail of the €50 Amazon voucher.
Mm-hmm.
So get those answers streaming in at the end of season 2 of The Last of Us fellow quizzes. We'd love to get as many players as possible into the World's End pub quiz. But now onto some of the episode details for Episode 4 of Season 2, Day 1. Derek, who gave us what, when, where, and how?
Well, of course, the show is based on the game from 2020 from PlayStation, The Last of Us Part 2 by Neil Druckmann and Haley Wagram-Gross, and game publisher Naughty Dog. This was written and executive produced by Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann. This episode written for television, once again, by Craig Mazin. I'm starting to believe that Craig Mazin has written all the episodes this season because Neil Druckmann hasn't had his credit on the screen as writer of an episode yet, John.
That is true, yeah. Maybe he just wants to be a silent writer.
Yeah. But he's on all
like
the
Jane
after
Austen was. Wasn't she a strapping Yorkshireman with a big bushy beard?
Don't think so, Jonathan. That might be from a Blackadder episode that you once watched.
It was.
I think it was, yes. No.
It literally was.
No, Neil Druckmann's on all the after shows. He's they chat to him all about it all the time, but I haven't seen a credit for him as a writer of an episode yet. Perhaps it's in the other 3 episodes coming up. But this episode, interestingly, was directed by Kate Herron. We know Kate Herron very well here at TV Podcast Industries because she was the creator and director of the excellent first season of Loki. So she put her stamp on the return of the trickster god into the MCU for that first season of the show, which was really good fun. So,
it was excellent. Loved
so great to see her
season 1
here doing The Last of Us as well.
Yeah,
John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. In 2018, Seattle group leader Isaac Dixon kills his federal disaster response agency FEDRA squad and switches allegiances to the W.L.F, the Washington Liberation Front. 11 years later, Isaac, now the W.L.F's leader, interrogates and later kills a Seraphite who refuses to share the location of his group's next attack. Meanwhile, Ellie and Dinah's first day in Seattle sees them stumble upon the remains of the conflicts between FEDRA agents. They also learn that the W.L.F are hiding out in the Seattle broadcast tower, but Dinah cautions that it could be a trap, so they hide out in a music store. While there, Ellie finds a guitar and serenades Dinah with a song she learned from Joel. That night, when they enter the broadcast tower, they stumble upon several W.L.F soldiers that have been brutally murdered by the Seraphites, and their bodies displayed suspended from the ceiling with their entrails hanging out. Whilst looking on at the grisly sight, the two escape the arrival of the wolves and the infected in the subway under Seattle, but Ellie is bitten while saving Dinah. As they hide in an abandoned theatre, a heartbroken Dinah prepares to shoot Ellie, who explains that she is immune. Dinah also confesses to Ellie that she is pregnant, and at that moment their feelings for one another get real as they have sex. The next morning, they make their way to the roof of the theatre after hearing explosions, and they overhear the W.L.F comms chatter on a walkie-talkie that the injured from the explosions are making their way to Lake Hill Hospital for treatment from Abby's friend Nora. Despite the danger, Dinah tells Ellie that even in her condition, she still wants to go with her to confront Nora.
Excellent. Lots of reveals, lots of interesting moments, and just the two of them in Seattle, really, for most of the episode.
Yeah, what the hell has happened to Seattle?
I love that.
It's such a good line.
Yeah, not exactly the line. It's very close to the line.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. Family-friendly podcast, yeah, exactly. I guess. The only F word used here is fun guy.
Or FEDRA.
Or FEDRA. Or from. Or for.
Those are their F words. Yeah. Absolutely. Our friends. When we get into our top moments from the episode, John.
Absolutely. First off, we have our point number 1. Isaac Dixon turns on the W.L.F.
Yes, our other F for the episode, the flashback at the beginning of the episode to 2018 here, as we have the chatter that's going on in the back of the vehicle. At this stage, a FEDRA vehicle in Seattle, where they're being pretty, what would you say, derogatory towards the citizens or former citizens of Seattle, calling them voters, and making the comment that basically they can do whatever they want to. These FEDRA agents, they're fully armed up. They can treat people however they want to. They reference another one of their officers that particularly relishes the control he has over the citizens of Seattle because he's basically got a gun, so that makes them all powerful. But there's one member of the team that we don't see on screen for the whole of this conversation. He just is held in the background for the whole time, watching on as this unfolds. It's Isaac Dixon, played by the very wonderful Jeffrey Wright, who played the character in the game, but we didn't see his backstory in the game. Here we have him as a FEDRA agent, telling everybody here the real truth of it. The reason why the citizens of Seattle are called voters is because FEDRA took away all of their rights, including their right to vote, and the term voters is used as a derogatory term to say they have no rights at all. So what an interesting introduction to the character of Isaac, and then following pretty quickly with his murder of all the Federations.
Yeah, as he meets a lady called Hanrahan. Here. So I like the little touch point here. Well, there's a few touch points I really like. First, Jeffrey Wright, really, really good here.
Love him.
I like the touch point that the person who asks the question about why the FEDRA soldiers call citizens voters is the person that Isaac chooses to bring out from the vehicle to come with him to what initially this squad believes is him confronting or responding to the tensions on the streets of Seattle and going out to face someone involved with that rather than shooting first. Isaac is saying, maybe stop being trigger happy and watch and listen and you might learn something. So he goes out to confront a woman called Hanrahan who has a number of followers behind her. And that's where he then gives some knowing looks, a few nods and glances, and turns back towards the armoured vehicle where he just lobs in a couple of hand grenades, closes the hatch, and bang, off they go, killing the squad. One of the drivers manages to get out, but massively stunned as a result of that concussive explosion, but is shot immediately. And the guy that he's asked to come with him, who asked the question, is kind of like looking at him. And he just says, make your choice here. And I kind of really enjoyed that touch point because it was also touched later on when we see him interrogating the Seraphite in the kitchen. Again, another really sort of elongated way of taking something very mundane like high-end expensive French cookware and making it terrifying in the age of the apocalypse. Indeed, even that he now has this full set of Mobile cookware. It's by the very fact it's through the apocalypse because he could never afford them. They were so expensive when it was just the normal day-to-day pre-fungus infection. Pre the outbreak of athlete's foot across the globe. So this all was really, really cool, I thought, how these touch points happened. The other intriguing thing, just coming back to Isaac and Hanrahan, is like, for sure, here we have Isaac defecting from FEDRA. Whether he is joining W.L.F here is another matter. I have the feeling that this might be the woman that has been talked about so often by the Seraphites.
Interesting.
That we saw in the previous episode, and we see again from the Seraphite being tortured by Isaac. That possibly this is her, the prophet of the Seraphites.
Interesting.
And that maybe there was a falling out, and so Isaac formed the W.L.F. as a result. It doesn't look very W.L.F. to me, this group behind her, but that's not to say that it's not. I'm just positing a little bit of a theory that could make it really interesting, this connection.
Well, I think the point is that it's early days as well. So that group could become the W.L.F., which is certainly what you're supposed to think with Isaac, because Isaac goes and joins this group and we see him as leader of the W.L.F. in the later scenes in Seattle. But you're absolutely right. He could have been joining up with another group, and Hanrahan here that he meets could be the person that eventually goes on to lead the Seraphites. He makes a very specific comment when he's torturing the Seraphite. There are members of your group that know she was just a woman, not some magician that will come down and save you, or not some god that will come down and save you when you're being tortured. She was just a woman. And the Seraphite being tortured calls them heretics, that group. And you see Isaac just throwing his eyes up, kind of going, I've been around a very long time here. I know this was just a woman in the past. You know, we saw that in the conversation last week with the other Seraphites. We saw them talking about it amongst themselves. You know, don't treat her like some kind of goddess. She was just a person that gave very good advice, and now we're following her advice. That's kind of the way that group were talking about them. So, but yeah, that torture scene with the Seraphite was really brutal. And there's something about it when you're talking about these two factions where we've heard the commentary about them from the people in Jackson. You know, they didn't really know much about them. There used to be this group, the Wolves, who aren't talked about very much anymore. So maybe they've fallen off, is what we hear from when they're setting out, I suppose, from Jackson to go out to Seattle to find Abby. The Seraphites, they didn't even know about at all. They only came across them on the road when they were going towards Seattle, but we hear Ellie and Dinah talking about them now, finding out that they are this pretty brutal group, which is kind of a contrast to what we saw of them last week. Yeah?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's clearly sort of all-out war between these two
absolutely,
factions.
That too, yeah.
And like these factions, it's like a microcosm of, you know, science versus religion a bit here as well. You have, and I mean, I say that at the moment, but it's the logic at which Isaac approaches his interrogation of the Seraphite, you know, that it's also about them being Seraphites, that, you know, it's a choice for them. But his Mobile torture cookware, you know, is copper, so it heats up quickly. You know, he's kind of saying, look, this is how it's going to go down. This is going to get really hot really quickly.
Yeah.
It's not my choice of interrogation metal, because it's not like cast iron that holds onto the heat. And, you know, this is very logical. And again, it's partly to scare the Seraphite. After being burnt once, you know, the next time the pan is being heated up to get it back up to temperature to inflict pain and damage on him, he has his hand already raised. It's this kind of devotion to his cause, and he has this wonderful counter argument to this interrogation from Isaac, where he's basically saying, you know, again, Isaac is saying, we have the arms, we have the weapons, the vehicles, you have bolt action rifles and bow and arrows.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, but members of the Wolves leaves every day.
Yeah.
No one leaves the Seraphites to come back over to you. And that it's almost like over time, we will just outnumber you.
He's proclaiming the war of attrition will happen. Yeah. Everybody that's in the Wolves right now will learn that they were wrong and will join the Seraphites. And what's so stark and kind of disturbing about that moment where Isaac goes back up to heat up the pan for his second return, Isaac's saying to him, I'm going to burn every piece of skin off your body until you tell me what I want you to know. And in response to that, the Seraphite's raising his hand.
Yeah.
So he's going, I don't care. You can go ahead and do it. And that's why Isaac shoots him, because Isaac's going, well, this guy's clearly gone way too far. He is not going to give a one word to me of what he will know.
It's the devout.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
It's the devout.
Exactly.
Versus, I'm not saying Isaac in his own way isn't devout. But it's just the difference in perspective here.
And I suppose, again, in contrast to what we saw last week, those are people that he would have called heretics, because the teachings that they're talking about the prophet are, she was just a woman that gave good direction. He's sacrificing his entire body and willing to be killed in the most brutal and very painful way, just to not give up the next planned possible attack from the Seraphites. And actually, maybe it's not an attack. He's just told Isaac that actually we're going to win because we're going to take each and every member of your team day by day by day, and we can hold out.
Yeah, and maybe it's that the Seraphites that were murdered by the W.L.F. last week were heretics leaving Seattle.
Yeah,
because they held those views.
I think that's the indication. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting thing, and it kind of, turns then back to this kid, now standing on guard outside of the kitchen with another W.L.F. Soldier. He made his choice to join whatever he joined back then, to leave and defect from FEDRA, and he just utters the words, they deserve whatever they get.
Exactly.
Because you hear the other guard kind of, getting squeamish over the screams of pain from being burnt. And, it's after they hear Isaac's bullet, he's able to relax. But this guy, maybe he's Isaac's right-hand man now, is like, they deserve what they get. So this is a real battle between ideologies, effectively.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely. And it's just interesting to note that the guy who's standing outside in the door that has been with Isaac for the last 11 years, he looks very dead-eyed in comparison to the kind of wide-eyed youth he was when he joined that group and was effectively saved by Isaac from what he did. But now he looks very dead-eyed and very part of the cause, effectively, even though there's a person being murdered behind the door. He has no real reaction to it other than he got what he deserved. But again, great to see another fantastic actor joining this show with Jeffrey Wright. Again, he did play the character in the games, which is really cool. We've covered him here for his work on What If over the course of the 3 seasons. He played the Watcher there, so great to see and hear his wonderful voice again. He has such gravitas to that voice. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Let us move on to our second point. Point number 2: Pride in Seattle. We are 11 years later. We have Ellie and Dinah making their way through Seattle.
And this, I was surprised about the timeline there for some reason. I didn't remember it was 2029 in the show.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that the time had moved forward. But it's in the ballpark, I guess.
It's just weird because we're covering Thunderbolts at the moment in the Marvel Cinematic Universe we covered this weekend. That's set in 2028 and this is set in 2029. It's just weird that we're watching shows in the future, even though everything's all coming out at the same time in 2025. We're watching all these shows set in the future. But I don't know. I for some reason I just didn't remember that it was happening in the future because of that 5-year time jump. They're now well beyond where we are. But we do have Ellie and Dinah arriving into Seattle. Pride flags all over all of the walls. And this in this area 10. I just think it's a really nice touch where they're kind of going, oh, I thought the whole of Seattle was bombed and there was going to be rubble everywhere. Well, not this area 10. I wonder why. Is it because of the flags? Was everybody here just a great optimist? Is that why they had rainbow flags on? You're kind of going, did they just decide they wouldn't bomb the gay district of, or the LGBTQ district of Seattle? Is that why there's no bombs in this area? And of course, Dinah and Ellie wouldn't know anything about that at all because they were born after the apocalypse, right? So they wouldn't even know what a rainbow flag was. Yeah,
no, it's interesting that hasn't carried through here, but I like the fact that they're not understanding that iconic reference of the rainbow flag here, which in a sense it kind of makes it more interesting that this isn't the situation. So and they inhabit this space here. So this is where the music store is as well, that they're going to hole up in.
Yeah.
It's where they kind of make the discovery of the W.L.F being in the main sort of broadcasting tower. And
I love this again. Dinah proving her usefulness and why she should be here and why Ellie shouldn't be just running off with a gun to go and take revenge. You know, Ellie's there going, look, I've just seen the sign of the W.L.F up in that tower over there. Let's go kill whoever's inside it. And Dinah's kind of going, yeah, but you can see it from far away. It's daytime. We're on horseback. They will see us coming. We need to hide out. Okay, have you got that, Ellie? You know, love it.
Absolutely. She is the one giving sober advice here.
Yes.
You know, Ellie wanting to go headlong, rushing in, whilst Dinah kind of hold back, assess it. You know, at night on foot, not in the day on a horse. The two of us.
Yeah.
You know, if it's on a hill with a big sign saying W.L.F, it probably means they want to be seen and be known to be there.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you know, she's the one that just pulls back the enthusiasm of Ellie to say, look, let's be a bit more tactical about this, which is a good job given what happened, you know, which we'll come to in one of our other points.
Yep.
But you then have this moment as well where they kind of make the point that it seems as though FEDRA were attacking FEDRA. So this could have been to do with the fallout from Isaac having made that move over to Hanrahan. Because maybe he was an influential, you know, well-liked officer in FEDRA, and so that defection could have spelt sort of the start of almost a civil war between FEDRA. For those people that really, it was that kind of autocratic value system that was being brought into their response to this apocalypse, like such as removing voting, or those in FEDRA saying, but this is to defend, this is to protect the democracy and the citizens, and we shouldn't as such prevent that functioning. We're protecting them from the infected.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Or something like, I mean, I don't know, but it's clearly seen that by Ellie that there was some form of infighting happening between FEDRA. And that spilled out where we see all the corpses on the streets in this former gay area of Seattle.
Exactly. It's just really interesting the way that we've seen FEDRA portrayed in the show so far. You know, we saw them back in the first season, and in episode 1, we saw them in control of the area where Joel lived effectively. We've seen Ellie as a member of FEDRA getting trained up to become a lieutenant in FEDRA effectively. We've seen them overthrown in another one of the cities that Joel and Ellie, Kansas City, where Joel and Ellie went through, completely overthrown by the population there, and now we've seen them turn on each other in Seattle and all kill each other as the W.L.F was birthed out of the remains almost. So that's what it seems like anyway from the description that we're seeing here. So I guess FEDRA didn't survive, and it's just an interesting touch because in so many zombie movies and so many zombie stories, the idea is maybe the government will get together and come in and save us all from the zombie apocalypse, right? That's the kind of story. You're hoping that the helicopter's going to fly in, take over the city. Well, they became really abusive in their power. They took away the powers of the people and thought that they could turn it into a military environment, and the people rose up and took those places back from them. That's kind of what seems to have happened in this story spanning these 17 to 20 years in the universe of the Last of Us, which is just really interesting to have the remnants of this federal society and this federal police force being torn apart in so many different ways in so many different places.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, you know? Yeah. I think, as well, it's like, it's the other kind of nice, cool moment in this part of the episode where they're in the music shop, because it's almost like looking back and looking forward. So, you know, see the guitars, see all the different records here, and there's the memories of Joel flooding back to Ellie that you can see in this. Certainly, you know, her joy at getting spur guitar strings as well that she takes, and
like
seeing
the mother
this
load,
pristine acoustic guitar that starts to get a sort of playing the tunes that Joel had taught her.
Yeah.
So, there's that look back, but at the same time, Dinah hears the music, comes up and is sitting and watching. So she's also, in a sense, she's performing and playing to someone that clearly is enthralled by this little music gig that's happening, and in some ways is being done also for her as well. So it's
gorgeous,
kind of a really lovely, tender moment about loss and the future, I think, happening here in the sort of shell of this music store in, I think it's Capitol Hill, isn't it? The area where there's all the pride flags and where they've kind of effectively holed up are kind of taking stock before they go off to the broadcast tower. So I just thought this was a really nice moment, actually.
Absolutely beautiful.
Really
my quote of the episode, I just loved it. It's how Bella Ramsey and Isabella Mercad play these roles together. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. And as you say, Isabella Mercad on the ground as Dinah watching on, tears forming in her eyes as Ellie plays this beautiful version of Take On Me by a-ha. And it's almost just the weight that's added to the words of the song when she's singing I'll Be Gone in a Day or Two. It's almost, that's what life is like in the post-apocalypse here. They will die, or they can die tomorrow, and they've both just lost someone really close to them. And Joel, Joel was really close to Dinah as well as Ellie. It wasn't just Ellie. And when she finishes, Dinah saying to her, "You've gotten really good at that. Joel taught you a lot." And it's the way that Bella Ramsey delivers he did, that it's not talking about how she can strike the right chords in this song. It's not talking about how she can sing the song the way that she's singing it. She's talking about every single thing that Joel has taught Ellie over the years they were together. And it's an absolutely beautiful moment. I think in the after show discussion on this, they effectively say this is when Dinah falls in love with Ellie, or realizes how much she's in love with Ellie at this moment as well.
Well, that's it. You can see it, cross-legged, looking at her, tears in her eyes from, the sentiment of what Ellie is doing. So, it's such a great, powerful moment of intimacy, I think, here.
Without a doubt.
Which is great to see,
Yeah.
I think, moving on to point 3. It is the W.L.F. tower and subway escape.
All the action in one moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really is a bit like that. I like how this points to Dinah's eye for an entry point, because we saw that with the stalker infected. The one in the supermarket close to Jackson, where they see the blood going up the van and through onto the flat roof and into the broken window. And Dinah again spots an entry route that is not the front door. They've shimmied up the downpipe and across through a broken window, and there's blood on there. So I kind of like this skill that Dinah has to spot routes. I kind of needed that when playing the game, I think, to be honest, because there's a lot of climbing and jumping up and taking unusual pathways to get in buildings rather than just the front door.
I think it was definitely one of the moments in Seattle in the game where we walked back and forth for ages and couldn't find the entry point. It wasn't like days or anything like that. It was like 10 or 15 minutes gone, what way do we do this? And then there's either one of the characters says something, or you pressed a button and it revealed the kind of the path that we needed to go. It was like, why did we do this 10 minutes ago?
It's usually flagged a little bit like sort of having a yellow sort of bit of metal work or something, or it's a lighter coloured bit of brick or stone where you can see that you can sort of run up the wall to grab onto the left or something like that.
Or a character in the background is going, have you tried walking over there to the left?
And you've just missed it, exactly. So it could definitely done with Dina's skill there, but ultimately, what they find when they enter into the broadcasting tower is certainly not children's BBC appropriate. But all. This is where this strategic location for the W.L.F that they've taken over. Yeah, and when they get in there, it's certainly not what they expected as they see this kind of grisly display of just hanging bodies, the W.L.F members with their intestines hanging out, strung up. I think their hands are clasped behind their back with barbed wire, and one of them sort of just absolutely filled with arrows. Yeah. Interesting they didn't take them back. It's I guess one of the benefits of using a bow and arrow is that you can go and retrieve the arrow so that you have ammo. You can, it's the renewable ammo in that sense. So I know it was just for, that visual effect and to give that hint that it is Seraphites here, but
I wondered actually whether the scene that we saw with Isaac interrogating the Seraphite is from a Seraphite that did this attack.
Maybe. That
they caught him. Now there is more backup that's coming in, and that's where when Dinah and Ellie are there, they have to get out of there, that more people are arriving. But I wonder if he was interrogating, it could be from anything, because there's just a conversation that they have during that interrogation where the Seraphite's saying to him, well, I did this because you broke the truce. And I was actually going, well, and then we did the other thing because you broke the truce. We're just going around chicken and egg games over and over again, each one of us thinking that the other one's doing something because they broke the truce before the other. So I just wonder, was he captured either on his way away from it or on his way towards them or something connected to it?
It's not made that obvious he is. I mean, even that conversation, that's just more, like you say, Isaac in the end is like, I'm not playing these chicken and egg games with you. Otherwise, I'm never going to get any information out of you. Exactly. But, so I didn't think he was, but he could have been. And certainly, the Seraphites were on maneuvers, so he could have been picked up. They may not have known he had been involved with that atrocity, because it feels like the W.L.F squad that is arriving is arriving. This is the first time
they don't know. That's right.
They know that the comms have gone down the broadcast tower, but they don't know why. So they come in and are equally shocked as Ellie and Dinah have been seeing this grisly sight.
Yeah, they're even saying, I don't care who did this, whether it's a woman or a child or whoever it is, we will find them, we will kill them. They're really, really brutal about it.
Which I kind of liked how absolute they were with that, because you effectively have Ellie and Dinah coming across this scene, not a part of it, and suddenly hiding behind, sort of shelving and carry cases of this broadcast station and trying to get out of there before they're blamed for what they've seen or just shot at, because I don't care who it is. There's not going to be any trial here.
Exactly.
It's point and shoot effectively.
Yes, but it's really important because as an audience, we need to see the distinction between Dinah and Ellie going after the attackers and killers of Joel, Abby, and her friends who are members of W.L.F. We need to see the difference between them. And one of the big things that's different here is Ellie and Dinah are walking into a city full of a lot of armed combatants and a lot of people that are up against them. So we need to know that if they do have to take out a wolf or two here or there, that they're still justified in doing it. Whereas Abby and her friends were going, we're here to kill Joel. We won't kill anybody else. And if you kill anybody else, then you're on the wrong side, is what they're saying to Abby. Yeah. So, Ellie and Dinah now have some motivation, I suppose. So if they accidentally have to kill a W.L.F member who's targeting them because they think they're the ones responsible for this attack, then that's okay, right? Then it's not as bad as if Abby and her friends had tortured or killed someone else from Jackson, for example. So that's what we need to see, and that's something that's just to make sure that's still in everybody's head about the differences between Ellie and Abby. That in these situations, Ellie and Dinah are going to make a different choice than Abby would make, I guess. So, and also interesting, what we're seeing with the brutality of what's happening to the wolves here, that's showing you how bad the Seraphites are too. Interestingly, their graffiti that they put on the wall with their symbol has the message above it, "Feel her love," while they've brutally killed 6 members of the WLFs and pulled out their entrails and left them hanging for other members of the Wolves to find. These are 2 different groups, but both quite brutal, and both will kill Ellie and Dinah if they have the chance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think Abby was tempered by Owen and other members of the group, say, like Nora. Whether Nora was any good at it is another matter. But true. She was tempered by the other members of that group, in effect. She was the most extreme, because we do hear that she did want to ambush one of the patrols, interrogate, and, well, we'll see what happens. You know, she wasn't asking the questions of, well, what if, they acted with the same devotion to protecting Jackson as the Seraphite we see in this episode has done around protecting the maneuvers of the Seraphites in this ongoing war. So I think you're right, for sure. It's also that, it's interesting that this is like a war zone, effectively.
It is, absolutely.
And as a result, as the war between Seraphites, W.L.F. has gone on and on and on, those boundaries, I guess in a sense, like we see in some of the, in the warfare that's happening today, what wasn't acceptable initially is now acceptable to do, and you go further and further and further. Yeah. It's that dehumanizing element in order to have that tactical and strategic advantage. And it's even to the point of the conversation with Isaac and the Seraphite, where he's like, well, you kill children, but they attack us. That's why we train them to protect themselves, because you kill children. And Isaac's, that chicken and egg situation around that has made killing children acceptable in the eyes of the W.L.F. So,
and the Seraphites,
and the Seraphites. It's just, it's kind of, it's that really, as well. And I think that, in a sense, Dinah and Ellie are making that choice that, as Dinah said, what's happened to Seattle? We have to kind of get with the program, otherwise we're not going to survive. So they're kind of forced into that situation.
Absolutely, and even on the way out of this of the TV station, as they're leaving, a member of the W.L.F. finds them. Dinah's able to take one out by a headshot, and Ellie takes out the other one by stabbing him in the neck. 2 pretty brutal murders of humans, effectively, as they're breaking out of here. And then the rest of the W.L.F. chase them until they find a way into the subway below. But there's another entrance into the subway, so this situation with the W.L.F. doesn't stop there. The rest of the W.L.F. come in through the other door, and then light up the whole of the subway trying to find Dinah and Ellie. I guess thinking that they are responsible for the murders of the people inside the TV tower. But it does attract the cordyceps and therefore the infected. This use of cordyceps works so well. We talked about it back in season 1. We talked about it earlier on in the season, this idea that the cordyceps are now a connecting organism that can alert the infected from far and wide, or from near and wide, let's say, that there's something going on they need to investigate, effectively. Whereas in the game, it's spores, it's things in the air that you pass through, and those things can cause you to become infected. Now there's a warning system that if you're not being careful enough and you step on them, or you light something up near them, they can alert a horde of infected to come and attack the area. It makes every situation really dangerous.
Well,
doesn't it?
It does, and it's really interesting. You hear one of the W.L.F. soldiers saying this area was supposed to be clear, because they're not picking up on these fine mycelial networks of the cordyceps that are permeating like a mat through the soil and ground. I mean, it's interesting, in the first season, you had them actually taking high aerial routes
Mm-hmm.
to navigate the cities, because just walking on the ground would alert the infected through this network, this communicating network.
That's right.
And that's kind of been dropped a little, in a sense, and I understand why. You can't be doing high level wire acts all the time.
Yes, exactly.
But in this case, it's underground is the network that is being activated here by the flares that are being used to light up the subway tunnel.
Yeah, it's a good excuse. It's not the plan of Ellie and Dinah to use the subway. They get in there almost accidentally while trying to escape from the W.L.F. So maybe they would have chosen to go a different way, but here they are stuck in the subway, and this is such an exciting scene as they go in and out of each of the carriages from the roof, and then through doors, and then back out the roof again.
It really felt like the game. There's a great part of the game in the subway here. It's just really good. I mean, that move through the carriages. Yeah. I mean, so most of the W.L.F. are taken out relatively quickly by this horde that has been activated. They're trying to escape by climbing into the carriage and to escape from the horde. I just think this is done really, really well. It's really exciting. It's really tense, certainly when they start to break through. There's a great moment where they manage to close one of the intercarriage doors between the carriages, and you have one of the clickers just missing their opportunity to sort of break through, which was really good. I do kind of want a bit more one-on-one clicker action a bit. Just because for me they were some of the hardest, tensest parts of the game. And I think it can be really, really tense with where you've got maybe 5 or 6 sort of stumbling, clicking around, a particular space that they've got to navigate through. I love the horde, don't get me wrong. I love Stalker infected, or maybe we should call them Einstein infected.
The Smarties,
The Smarties, not the minstrels, or the Revels. But I don't know, there's something iconic with the clickers, with that exaggerated sort of twitching movement, the stumble, but once activated, sort of being terrifying.
Absolutely. It's probably because you were killed so many times by clickers in playing the game that you want to see somebody else experience it. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have another scene towards the end of the season where we see more clickers, though. But it does make sense.
Yeah. But the subway scene is really good. I just really enjoyed this.
And just to end on that moment as they're going out through the rusty gates, Ellie's gotten there first. She's pushing her way out. Dinah's trying to help her, but the gate is stuck. And as they're breaking their way through and trying to push it, an infected gets almost to Dinah. So Ellie puts her arm in the infected's mouth, taking the bite to ensure that Dinah doesn't get bitten.
Yeah, right in front of Dinah.
Right in front of Dinah. But it's really interesting. It's just because it keeps flashing back in my head that if you remember back in season 1, the character of Tess, played by Anna Torv, who was on the start of the journey and knew that she wasn't infected. She was giving her a warning. I think actually it might have been Marlene. Sorry, I think it was Tess, but it might have been Marlene who was giving Ellie the warning that yes, okay, you might not be able to get infected, but you can still get torn apart by infected. Yeah, you can still get ripped to pieces by them, and there's still that kind of moment with Ellie that you're going, yeah, you put your arm to block Dinah from getting bitten, but there could have been another infected there, and another who could have ripped you to pieces while you're trying to protect somebody else. But luckily, in this case, it's only a bite, and Ellie is immune, so they were able to get out of there.
Definitely. But I think we should move that onto our point number 4.
Definitely, yeah.
Ellie would die for Dinah, because she is bitten. She's bitten right in front of Dinah, and it's. The shock here for Dinah is twofold. It's, well, I almost got bitten myself, but she's seeing the person who she cares for all being bitten. And the implications for that is, as per Jackson rules, it's a gunshot to the head.
Yeah.
It's, I have to kill you. And this is ultimately, this standoff plays out here. They make their way across the road from the subway entrance to a theatre. As the Horde is effectively pinned back by the big metal turnstile gates, the old school ones that are kind of almost like the ones you used to get to go into football stadiums, and they're caught there, they can't come out, so they've made shelter in a theatre. But Ellie has then explaining to do in this standoff where Dinah has the revolver trained on her all the way. She has to show, look, don't shoot me. I'm immune, effectively.
Yeah. Again, a wonderful line reading, I guess, from Bella Ramsey, where Ellie's going, I would die for you, but that's not what happened here. Because in the head of Dinah here, she's never seen anybody at all in 20 years who's survived a bite. And every single person that's been bitten turns into an infected and has to be shot in the head. We've never heard the story of what happened to her parents or her siblings, or her cousins or whoever she was with at the beginning of the apocalypse. But you can be pretty guaranteed that some of them died because they got infected and had to be put down, That's probably happened reasonably regularly over the course of the last 20 years. People have died. Things have happened to people from Jackson, where she's been living.
Like Eugene.
Eugene, exactly. A recent example that we will, I'm sure, get the more details of. But she's now gone on this trip with Ellie. On their first day in Seattle, Ellie's gotten bitten by an infected, and now Dinah's going to be all on her own and going to have to kill the person that she's just realised she's in love with.
Yeah.
What an amazing moment what a brilliant moment for the two of them, the standoff between the two of them. Ellie going, look, I'm going to have to explain this to you. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to treat my wound. It'll be fine. It is a cut, but it's not going to get infected. And you can stand there with a gun on me all night. I need rest. And I'll wake up in the morning exactly as I am right now. And again, another great line from Ellie going, most mornings I wouldn't be happy with that, but tomorrow morning I'm still going to wake up the same way as I wake up every single morning. So, great little moment from her there. Yeah.
I mean, she also, I think when she wakes up, she says, look, no shaking, I'm not shaking.
Because she gets hit in the head from some water dripping from the ceiling and shakes because of it, and then goes, oh no, that's not the cordyceps. That's just because water dripped on my head.
Yeah. But I love how through all of this, how Dinah remains cautious of it. That it's always that she has the torch pointed at her face and with the gun trained on her.
Yeah.
Like Dinah, is listening. She's processing because she's still got the gun trained on her. She hasn't shot her.
Yeah.
And I like that caution that she shows. It plays to the smarts that we saw earlier around being tactical in approaching the broadcast tower rather than headlong first. And it's what she's trying to process here, and to the point where when she is convinced that she is accepting of what's happening here, that she kind of tells then Ellie and blurts out that she's pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. And that must have been huge in her mind. She found this out on the road. We heard the story later on that she missed her period, so she knew there was something going on, but she took multiple pregnancy tests just in case, since they'd found them. She might as well. They weren't being used for anything else, so she might as well do as many tests as she possibly can. But she is 100% pregnant. But that's the other thing. She's in Seattle with the person that brought her here on a revenge mission. That person got bitten, and she's going to have to put her down. And she's pregnant all on her own in Seattle after killing her best friend. All of this stuff must have been playing on her mind. So the minute that she finds out or realizes that Ellie is immune, she instantly blurts it out. She instantly has to tell her. She's almost had her friend resurrected in front of her. Yeah? That's kind of what it must feel like. Her partner's just been resurrected in front of her. And the two of them have sex. The two of them run to each other.
I think the intensity of the situation, of the emotional release, means that just pulls them into one another's arms.
Exactly. Yeah, it just makes total sense that would happen between the two of them there. It's that relief of finding out that they're both still able to continue together. And they have the whole conversation between each other the following morning when they wake up. Over,
am I going to be a dad? That was great.
Yeah, that was really good. Where she says, we're all having a baby, me, you, and Jesse, the three of us, and I'm going to be a dad. I love that. But this is the conversation they have over the, I guess, beefy breath mints.
I guess so. I mean... I guess in this world, beef jerky is the answer to everything. Because, I mean, they're literally saying, are you hungry? Should I get some beef jerky? Do you need to clean your teeth? Should I get some beef jerky?
I've tasted beef jerky before. I don't know whether that's worse than morning breath. And at this stage, 20 years into the apocalypse, if you're not used to morning breath at this stage, there's no hope for you, really.
No,
but the conversation that we hear from Dinah, we hear the struggle that she had in the past about coming out as bisexual. She knew she was when she was younger. She knew she was attracted to girls and boys. She said it to her mom. Her mom said, no, you're attracted to boys. And that's it. And that's how she's lived her life. She says to Ellie, I'm not like you, I'm not brave like you. And Ellie just goes, I'm not brave, I'm just obvious. I'm just living who I am. I can't be anything else, which I love. That's a really strong, confident way of saying how Ellie behaves around everybody around her, you know, which is really good. I really like that.
It really was a great way of explaining it. I mean, even Dinah explaining her journey as well. It was all really good.
Yeah.
It felt really natural.
It did.
In terms of how it's being explained here.
Yeah.
And then it's all interrupted by sort of booms and explosions happening off in the distance. And I think with that, point 5, moving on to our final point, point 5.
Yeah.
Next time, Nora is in the crosshairs.
That's what it seems like.
It certainly seems like that.
I really like this. You know, we saw them picking up the walkie-talkie from the dead FEDRA agent when they were in the TV station. They take it with them. They find out it's the same type of walkie-talkies that they have, so they're able to tune into it, I suppose. And then while they're having this conversation, the explosions are going on, and then we hear that there's been an attack. There's many injuries happening. Over the walkie-talkie, we hear that they're going to be taking them back to the hospital, Lakeside Hospital, where Nora is. We saw Nora back in episode 1 of the season, one of Abby's group. Nora's the medical professional, one that was treating Dina's wounds. Dina's frostbite, I guess, and then eventually knocked Dina out for the hour while they were torturing Joel. So this is an easy way in to the group for Ellie and Dinah. If they find Nora, maybe she'll be able to tell them where Abby is, and this is where they want to go. But of course, Ellie's just found out that Dinah's pregnant. Changes everything about how Ellie has to deal with her backup person, the person that's supposed to have her back in this revenge mission. Now is pregnant. She should be being kept safe. And again, it's that almost unspoken question. Ellie asks her, you know, do you want me to just do this and you stay behind? She sees the look on Dina's face and goes, no, I don't mean it in that way. I'm not saying you're not capable. I'm saying, do you not want to protect this pregnancy that you have? It's a different thing to me saying you're not capable. It's me saying to you, do you want to just think about it before putting the life of yourself and your child on the line, effectively?
Yeah. Absolutely. And Dina just says, holds out a hand and says together.
Exactly.
You know, the other thing here as well, we do hear that they say the scars are attacking. So this is an attack by the Seraphites.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
On W.L.F.
Yeah.
So again, they're going into a really dangerous or potentially dangerous situation, probably still fighting. And, you know, so Ellie simply asks the question. The response of Dinah, together, you know, as she holds out her hand seems really fitting here, in this moment. So, and I guess they're off to hospital, so there might be loads of supplies that Dinah can pick up.
I know we filled up her bag of medical supplies in the game, up here.
Well, yeah, she's already filled it up from the pharmacy.
She did,
yes. And what she could, and used a number of the pregnancy tests. I like how Dinah did that as well, I must say. She knew that, the pregnancy tests had been around for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know entirely what the shelf life of a pregnancy test would be, but I like that she effectively did multiple ones just in case there was an issue because of how long they'd been on the shelf.
Exactly. Test 20 or 30 of them just in case. Just keep testing. Make sure if they all come up with exactly the same reading, it's pretty likely.
Really sensible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the episode ends. The two of them going off together, hopefully to find Nora next week and find their target of Abby.
Be interesting now to see how this plays out.
Absolutely.
How they get even across Seattle, because it seemed like there was a good old distance there as well. So they've got to make it across. I wonder if that will be shown in any way, or whether it will be, they've made it to the hospital. But there's plenty of opportunities for interactions with the wolves as well as the Seraphites. But I think with that, any notes for this episode, Derek?
No, I think we talked about everything that I had written in my notes for the episode. How about yourself, John? Any notes from the episode?
Just two for me. One, when Ellie puts down the acoustic guitar after having played Take On Me. That is the classic image from the second game in the video.
It is, yes.
Of the guitar up against a grass and moss covered interior. So I like how they pick those kind of real iconic moments. And still frame them within the show. So that was really, really nice. And the other one, something that you actually, I was watching it going, I recognize this guy, but you actually mentioned that he'd been in Oppenheimer. But Josh Peck was one of the W.L.F. guards in the back of the van.
Yes, he was the one that was given the actual speech about the voters being taken down and being pushed
so
to the wall.
He was in Oppenheimer. So I wondered where I'd seen him from, because I certainly hadn't seen him from any other stuff that he'd been in. So that was kind of interesting.
I think we're a little old, but he was on a TV show. He was the title character in Drake and Josh, which was on Nickelodeon about 10 years after we would have been watching Nickelodeon.
If we had grown up.
If we ever watched Nickelodeon, to be honest, because I don't think it was even over here when we were kids.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But ultimately he got blown up.
He did.
At the end.
He did.
So those are my two little notes.
Excellent stuff. Overall, John, what's a wrap up of the episode? What do you think of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1?
I would give this 4.5 beefy, jerky breaths out of 5. I just really enjoyed the introduction of Isaac here, and in particular his kind of second in command or sidekick, in terms of that kind of wide-eyed or dead-eyed, depending on what time period you're in.
Exactly.
Guard. I just think it's really intriguing around Hanrahan. Could be there's a number of different ways that Hanrahan can go, and how that could be a really nice backstory to this current conflict that is happening between the Seraphites and the wolves. I like that that's explored a bit more, certainly through the broadcast tower, where you see the extent to which this factional war has taken over Seattle, in a sense, has kind of really obsessed everyone, that everyone's on edge, everyone's obsessed with it. It's almost total war here in Seattle, and how, Seraphites are, maiming and displaying their kills, such as in the W.L.F.
Absolutely.
You have interrogation, information gathering and finding through interrogation, like we see with Isaac and the Seraphite. And again, just seeing that, these two devotional ideologies playing out, which again, I just wonder for Isaac, did it come across as a personal thing because he knew the woman? So that's what I just have this feeling. So I really enjoyed that. I think Dinah and Ellie, that relationship, I'm just so glad that they've kind of sort of allowed that to breathe. I'm not going to lie. I think initially, it was on second watch, the immediate intersex at that really tense moment, I wasn't kind of, as an audience member, prepared for it. But I think second time watching it, given the intensity, given the, the serenade of Take On Me by by Ellie to Dinah, and that unspoken aspect of how their feelings had developed, plus through the the journey to Seattle. That we had seen the tent talk there rather than the TED talk. Was on their way to Seattle. So
last episode, the one that just felt like queerbaiting, where Dinah was asking Ellie, well, how would you rate my kiss out of 10? And we were kind of going, well, if you wanted to kiss her, ask her to kiss her. Don't tell this girl that you've gone back with your boyfriend and then rate my kiss, So I'm really glad that changed in this episode. I'm really glad this is a moment of the realization where Dinah's going, oh my God, I almost lost her. I can't possibly let this woman go, basically.
Exactly. And that's where it made more sense. The subway scene, really, really cool. As was the broadcast tower. I mean, that's a real, again, iconic part of the game. So there's a lot of touch points here from that initial entry into Seattle. I think how that's portrayed anyway is really good. Just some of these real nice touches about like the rainbow flag from Dinah and Ellie. Just really interesting takes. And then, understanding here that Dinah is pregnant, what that means to them as a couple. Was just really, really well handled. And I liked it. And then equally looking forward to, Nora and the hospital visit. See how that goes, in the next episode. So yeah, for me, really, really enjoyed this, episode. It had a lot of it, in the game that I really, really enjoyed. Great introduction to Seattle, great introduction to Isaac, and that landscape that they're having to traverse across in both in this episode and the next episode as they go to Lake Hill Hospital, I'm guessing. So 4.5 beefy, jerky breaths out of 5.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John. I think this is an excellent episode. I think Kate Herron did a brilliant job directing this episode, balancing those character moments that we have between Dinah and Ellie, along with those huge moments in Seattle. The tower and the subway escape are two very big moments. But also the cityscape itself, the design of the show is fantastic, and seeing it brought to screen is excellent. I know we say that a lot, but it is incredible what they've been able to bring to a TV show that in the past was only brought to life in the game, in the video game. So,
and it's consistently good.
It looks so good. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I need a drink, John, after that episode.
Definitely.
Calm me nerves.
Yeah, me too. Let us get on to The Last of Us World End Pub Quiz. Fellow quizzers, fellow survivors. It is, of course, episode 4. So we are rattling on to our 4th question for this series. Here we go. What are the surnames of the 3 astronauts that Ellie remarks about who burnt up in their space capsule on their mission to the moon and reminds her of the 3 burnt corpses inside an old FEDRA tank?
Ooh, long question this time.
Well, I thought a bit of context.
Absolutely. John, do you want to get the question one more time?
Yes. What are the surnames of the 3 astronauts that Ellie remarks about who burnt up in their space capsule on their mission to the moon and reminds her of the 3 burnt corpses inside an old FEDRA tank? And dare I say it, for an extra point, what was the name and number of the space mission to the moon?
Oh, very good. Very good. I think a lot of people remember that.
I hope so.
Yeah. Especially from that particular moment in the episode as well. So that is the 4th question of 7 questions. All you need to do is email your answers in at the end of the season to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be getting your hands on those Last of Us 2 goodies.
Yes, good luck, fellow quizzers. And of course, survivors.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And that is the same address. You can email your thoughts on The Last of Us or any of the shows that we cover. You can email those to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com and we'll discuss them on the podcast. But we do have a little bit of feedback in on this episode from our Facebook group from Victor.
Yes. Victor says, I liked everything here. We may currently have Pedro saturation, but I cannot get enough of Jeffrey Wright. What brand guitar was Bella playing? I heard she taught Pedro to play for his guitar scenes.
Ooh.
Interesting. And Jeffrey Wright's Isaac all but told the transport full of lunkheads they were toast, but they were too dim to see it coming. Was the noob he saved blessed or cursed? And finally, could Isaac have once cooked for the Prophet?
Ooh, that seems similar to your speculation, John.
Yeah, I like that, Victor. Good speculation.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly so. Yeah. But we're probably talking about before the apocalypse then.
Maybe. He might have continued to cook for after when he became a FEDRA agent, you know. He just said he wasn't very good with girls. He never said when he started or when he stopped. So he may still have cooked for. That may have been how they kindled their relationship. Maybe.
Yeah, certainly could have been. Yeah. I do like that because I do think there's something in our introduction here from Isaac that suggests there's a personal note to this.
Oh, okay. Maybe.
For me, anyway.
Right. I just thought he was absolutely sick of the way these people are treating being federal military, going, you know, we have a gun, they have to do what we say. So he's going, that's me. I'm out. I'm done. You're totally right, Victor. That moment where he's literally telling the people in the transport, you have gone way too far here, and then kills them all, makes total sense. And exactly as I said, you know, the noob who is still with him 11 years later with the dead eyes, I have no idea whether that means he's blessed or cursed. He's obviously seen a lot over those years as well. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not too sure of the brand of guitar that Bella was playing here. Yeah, there's a few different versions. I had a quick look at this. As the TV show's only on a couple of days ago, I haven't seen the actual guitar that she played there. I'm sure it's out there, but I know they did create a custom replica of the guitar, which you could buy for a couple of £1,000 when the game came out originally. So it might have been a bespoke guitar that she found there. As for Pedro Pascal saturation, absolutely not. I can't wait to see more. But if you're going to lose Pedro Pascal from your show, getting Jeffrey Wright in is not a bad call on your next episode, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeffrey Wright's such a good presence. Love him.
So good. It would have been good to have had these two together as well.
Yeah. So maybe
good.
The Watcher can deal with Mr. Fantastic at some point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Absolutely.
Have a scene between the two of them.
Definitely.
Thanks so much, Victor, for your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks so much, Victor.
And that's it for our chat all about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4. We'll be back next week, of course, with the 5th episode of The Last of Us. Also, if you've gone to the cinema to see Thunderbolts Asterix, make sure you check out our podcast on that over at tvpodcastindustries.com. Or you can join us over there if you want to leave your feedback for any of the episodes as well. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yeah, thanks so much, fellow survivors, for joining us. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep surviving.
Bye.
Bye.